And so what happened is that when Triptakirti Prabhu got married, Prabhupada blessed his first son. Prabhupada played with him on his lap. I never had that benediction. I think I was a little too big for that one. So Prabhupada played with him on his lap and gave him his name and gave his father a present to buy some money to buy something, I think some jewelry too. So very fortunate for her that he's married to a girl, obviously. Of course, nowadays you gotta explain that. So he's sorry about the humor. So he's married to a girl who is the daughter of Urmila Devi Dasari, who is ISKCON's foremost educator. And he's a grandfather too. He has a daughter named Padma Gopi, she's also an initiated devotee, and he has a grandson named Abhimanyu. So he's accomplished everything in a short 25 years. No, he's actually 43 years old. 43 years old, okay. And so he's assisting me. I'm so fortunate to have someone like that assisting me. Just introduction. So anyway, so we're here today to talk about empathy versus sympathy, which is one of the topics in my book, which is here. If any of you are interested in a copy of it, then you can see my or whoever you want to see, or myself, you get a copy of the book. It's a book about realizing our empathic nature connected to Krishna. Because human beings, let me just finish this Prabhupada, Om Gana Timirandasha, Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur, Meditam Gena, Tasmai Shiva Veda Namaha. So human beings, and actually all living entities, have an empathic nature, which really is what satisfies the soul when it's connected with Krishna. And even in the material world, we experience that when people help someone else, they feel happiness, even materially, that they have not experienced before. That is even greater than the happiness of eating a lot of food, or going on a vacation, or playing golf, which I don't think is happiness. But it surpasses all other happiness. Isn't it when we experience when we help someone? It's really amazing. So I just saw a video the other day about a whale. Some of you may have seen this video. So there was a lady who was diving, scuba diving or skin diving, with goggles on and everything like that. The whale, this big whale just kept pushing her and pushing her and pushing her and pushing her. And she's going, oh my God, I remember being attacked by a whale before. But then she realized, after about 15 minutes of freaking out, that the whale was pushing her away from the sharks to protect her. It's amazing. So even, what I'm pointing out is that the soul has this natural tendency to help others. And even in the body of a whale, which is a mammal, not a fish, and actually more developed and more intelligent than actually most other mammals, whales, porpoises, and dolphins, that you find this the feeling to help others and the happiness from helping others. So we're going to examine today what empathy is, and that's really what it is, to help others, but what empathy is versus sympathy. And to start it off, I'll read about compassion. I have some quotes here. This is my teacher's manual for my course, which I'm incidentally giving this next weekend in Eden, Hungary, over several days to about 200 people. We have this nice program arranged. So, but today I'm just going to give you a short, not version of the whole course, but a short explanation of one aspect of the course. So let's hear from Prabhupada about empathy, and Prabhupada is quoting from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada's verse about compassion. And this, of course, is Vasudeva Dutt's prayer to save all living entities, which exemplifies Vaishnava compassion. So Vasudeva Dutt told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my dear Lord, you incarnate just to deliver all conditioned souls. I have now one petition, which I wish you would accept. My Lord, my heart breaks to see the sufferings of all conditioned souls. Therefore, I request you to transfer the karma of their sinful lives upon my head. My dear Lord, let me suffer perpetually in a hellish condition, accepting all the sinful reactions of all living entities. Please finish their diseased material life. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard Vasudev Dutt's statement, his heart became soft, tears flowed from his eyes, and he began to tremble. A Vaishnava is so liberal, this is Prabhupada's commentary, is so liberal that he's prepared to risk everything to rescue conditioned souls from material existence. He, that is Vasudev Dutt, was a most exalted personality who wanted to show mercy upon the conditioned souls. He was a Vaishnava, para dukkha dukhi, very much aggrieved to see others suffer. One who executes Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission must be considered to be eternally liberated. He is a transcendental person and does not belong to this material world. Such a devotee engaging in the deliverance of the total population is as magnanimous as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Such a personality factually represents Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because his heart is always filled with compassion for the conditioned souls. So we're talking about empathy, sympathy, and compassion very simply between sympathy and empathy. Empathy means to actually take others' sufferings or feelings as our own, to understand them. Sympathy means how we feel about others' actions, feelings, pains, and sorrows. I'll give you a practical example. Let's talk about sympathy first. Let's say someone's in the hospital and they're in pain. So sympathy would mean going to the person in the hospital in pain and saying to them, my dear Prabhu, I feel so bad for you. In other words, it's about me. It's not about them. I feel so bad. Oh, it's giving me pain to see you suffering like this. Of course, it doesn't really help the person who's suffering to hear that sort of particular statement because it's about the other person. So empathy would be, my dear Prabhu, I can see you're experiencing a lot of pain. It must be really difficult in that situation. So let's put this in a Krishna conscious, more Krishna conscious perspective. Let's take sympathy from someone who wants to help someone in Krishna consciousness. Okay, he's in the hospital again. He's suffering. So you go and you tell the person, my dear Prabhu, you're not the body. You're a spirit soul. You're in Maya. You're an illusion. Now, will that help the person? Or even dealing with children, for example. Much of my book is about how to deal with children. If you want to get a copy of the book, there's an advertisement. It tells you how to raise your children empathically, to get them to open up their hearts, and loving relationships and everything like that. It's not a management manual for children. But let's say dealing with children, let's say you want your child to chant japa, and you say to your child, chant. And they'll say, I don't feel like it. And you say, you have to do it. Don't you understand? If you don't do it, you won't go back to God. Of course, the child will respond, I don't want to go back to God. I want to chant, I don't want to go back to God. And the more you force someone to do something like that, and maybe you really have a good motivation in order to do that, then the less they will actually agree to follow that particular instruction. Because we have a natural need for autonomy. Now this is a very important part of my course that I give. I talk about needs that each and every person has. I don't know if anyone studied psychology in the university, but there's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Anyone heard about that before? No. So we all have different needs, especially, food, water, air, all those other things, going all the way up to the need for self-realization or Krishna consciousness. And one of those basic needs is the need for autonomy, making our own decisions in life, and being able to be respected as an autonomous individual living entity. So when you do that to a child, if you give advice or someone in the hospital, you're not the body, they're naturally going to rebel rather than be happy with that advice. I mean, everybody knows if you tell a child not to do something, that thing that you told them not to do becomes more attractive to them. I mean, I'll give you an example of my own childhood. My mother had one room, a big room, the living room in the house, that was off limits to me. You know, there was furniture in there that was very expensive. Very, very expensive couches. She'd keep it covered all the time, so you're not allowed to go in that room. And so as soon as she left the house, where did I go? I went in the room. Not only did I go in the room, I pulled the covers off the furniture and used the furniture as a trampoline. And that was fun. I can tell you, just even thinking about it now, I'm just having fun, thinking and relating the whole story there. So when you impose something in the name of sympathy, or in the name of giving instructions, people don't appreciate it. So getting back to the hospital example again. So if you go to the hospital and you just say that you're not the body, don't feel the pain, and this is Maya, become transcendental, chant Hare Krishna, it's not going to work. So instead, you reflect, and that's part of empathy. You reflect. It's not that you actually start to feel exactly as they felt, but you try to understand their feelings and needs. You know, you have a need for being comfortable, basically. If they're in the hospital experiencing pain, you have a need to be painless. And you also have a need for understanding. So each and every one of us has a need for understanding. And has a need for that sort of empathy. And when someone can touch your heart with that empathy, then it's not that you'll listen to everything they say, but you'll feel connected and more apt or want to be Krishna conscious in that particular circumstances. So, empathy is not a management tool. That's not what we're teaching. But it's a tool for connecting to people. And then it's also, as far as people becoming Krishna conscious, it is up to them. Everybody has free will. Everybody can choose whether or not to take up Krishna consciousness. That includes children, adults, everybody. It's all voluntary. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains everything to Arjuna, but there's no force. At the end, Krishna gives his final advice. He says, Sarva dharmam parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. But then he asks Arjuna, what are you going to do? Make your own choice of it. He doesn't say to Arjuna, using guilt trips, that if you don't do what I say, Arjuna, you're going to give me pain. He doesn't threaten him. If you don't do what I say, Arjuna, you're going to hell. Like some religions do. And actually, sometimes we do that too. If you don't do what I say, Yamaraj is going to come and get you. You know, you read the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, you say, oh my God, I better chant my rounds. Or else I'll be in trouble. So, in this way, Krishna is giving Arjuna his choice in a detached way, because we cannot control someone. We cannot demand something from someone. When you try to control or demand something, even if they give in, they won't be giving in internally. And then that's not useful. I mean, you don't want someone doing service unless they actually want to do that particular service. The main thing is to change people's consciousness, and another thing, which is very important here and everywhere, to resolve conflicts. Because in every situation, and I'm not particularly talking about anything to do with Richmond or the Richmond Yantra, in every situation, we have conflicts. Conflicts are not bad. It's good that we have conflicts. Because if we didn't have conflicts, we'd all be robots or machines. if everybody, that would be pretty boring. If everybody agreed with everybody else, it would be like, I don't know if anyone's seen this movie, it'd be like the clone army in Star Wars. Anyone seen Star Wars here?
Yes.
Yeah, somebody, be honest. None of the ladies have. So, they're more pure. So anyway, so it would be like the clone army, that everybody is just a clone of everyone else, like a cookie cutter type situation. So it's wonderful that there's difference of opinion and different strategies and everything like that. But how to resolve it? That is the question. You gonna hold it? Yeah, his hand is getting trembling. Maybe you could rest it on something. So how to resolve conflicts? That is, not to get everybody believing the same thing or accepting the same thing, but to work together. Oh, that's a good idea. Got it? To work together, as Srila Prabhupada said, your love will be tested by cooperation, love and trust, cooperation. So the way we resolve them, the way we work together, is to understand empathically each other's feelings and needs. And not to denigrate others, not to put a label on others, which we are wont to do. And it's an interesting phenomenon in religion, because we're supposed to be members of a religion or following a religion, that in most religions, or in every religion, most people are less empathic than people outside of religions. Now that may come as a shock. That's a sociological study. That's not something I just invented off the top of my head. Like 80%, here's the statistics. 80% of people who are connected to religion are less empathic than the people in general. 20% of the people who are in religion are more empathic than the people in general. Now, why is that? Because we, or religious people, to a large extent, have a tendency to put labels on people. This is another important topic that's there in my book. We put labels. Like if someone doesn't act the way we want, we call them rascal, demon, or we get really heavy, rakshasa, or less intelligent. I mean, I could go through a whole list, and if I had a flip chart here, I could ask you all to come up with all negative designations that we use in Krishna consciousness. We're expert. Every religion. Not just us. I mean, if you look, let's say Muslim religion, kafir, infidel. As soon as you put a label on someone, that's how you see them, isn't it? You're an infidel. Or you're of the devil if you happen to be a Christian. How many of us have been called, or at least I have a number of times, a demon or a devil by people in the Christian religion? Or called, or every religion has its different designations for people. So we find that religions have more designations for other people, more labels, more what I would call diagnoses for people than ordinary people have, than people who are not religious. So we have that tendency. When someone, he's on the mental platform. I mean, so many labels. Or the men have a label for women, women are the less intelligent, or he's puffed up. Can anyone think of any other labels? No? You're all inventive.
Envious.
What? Envious. Yeah, there's a good one. Thank you for that one. I forgot about that. Nice one. Karmi. Demon. Sense gratifier. Materialist. Any other ones? We're rolling here, We got some nice names. So the point I'm making, okay, so when you're talking about conflicts between devotees, is that when we put these labels on them, and that's how we see people. That's called a static label. There's an opposite word, ecstatic. Right? Ecstatic or static. Static means it doesn't change. Or like Prabhupada, this is something Prabhupada said. You give the dog a bad name and hang him. That was Prabhupada's expression. So Prabhupada was referring to those static, not so ecstatic labels. That you put a label on someone, and then you see them as that. It's static in the sense that it's always there. It doesn't change. That's what I mean by static. However, we're different. We are not ecstatic, but we change all the time. Sometimes we act stupidly, and sometimes we don't. So no one is stupid, but he may be acting stupidly. In other words, we're dynamic, not static. There's difference. We're always changing. But what the problem is that we do give the, I don't want to say dog, give the devotee a bad name. Devotees are not dogs. Give the person a bad name. In our mind, there's an expression, we comp an attitude. How about that? Anyone's heard of that expression before? No. That's from the 1960s, or from my generation. We comp an attitude towards someone, and we just keep that attitude. But people change. People are different moment to moment, day to day. And everybody, at all times, is motivated by trying to fulfill their needs. That's very important when we want to develop empathy and compassion towards others. You know, why, let's take an example. Why is that person, let's say you're driving a car and he gets angry, someone driving next to you gets angry because you're going too slow ahead. That happened quite a bit recently. Michael was with me. I'm driving the speed limit, and the person behind me is tailgating. Everybody knows what tailgating is? Tailgating also refers to when people go in a pickup truck on a party, and they all get drunk, but that's not what I'm referring to. It's American, they go to a race car, something like that. So anyway, so he's tailgating, and he's angry as hell, honking his horn. So, I could think, let's say, unempathically, I could think, this idiot, he's a jerk. In fact, probably that's what I did say. But anyway, so that's not where we want to go with each other. But the point is that this person probably had a need. Maybe he had to rush to the hospital because his wife was sick. Maybe he was late for work and he was going to get in trouble with his boss. I mean, I don't know. But he was tailgating. There was some need. There was some bona fide need he was trying to fulfill. He was frustrated. Obviously he was frustrated because he was hungry this morning. He was angry. So empathy means to try to understand, rather than put a label on the guy, to try to understand why he's doing what he's doing and put yourself sometimes in his shoes. That's called role-playing. To understand, if I was in that situation, why would I possibly be doing that? And try to guess at that. And that way, you can see that people respond, or people are doing things for the same reason you're doing things. Like I mentioned, the basic needs. People want air, food, light, appreciation, play, freedom, knowledge. I mean, there's so many basic needs, and so everyone's acting to fulfill these basic needs. So if we see others like that, don't designate others when we're dealing with them. We can develop more of a cooperative attitude with others and resolve conflicts easily. And we can establish a social structure that supports everyone's needs and develop relationships based on not hierarchy, Although there are hierarchies, we're not denying that there are natural or needed hierarchies. But relationships based on mutual trust, respect, compassion, and cooperation with each other. So this is basically what the difference is between empathy and sympathy. So maybe I should go further with talking about the subject matter of empathic communication. So let's talk about a little bit about the blocks. What blocks our compassion between each other and our cooperation between each other. So how do we get to the point where we are now with these different blocks? And I'm not specifically referring to the situation, any situation here. So we have in our society a authority structure, and generally there's an imposition of authority based upon position rather than based upon who the authority is, what the authority knows, and what skills the authority has. So there's a demand for respect of authority, but actually respect is gained by what someone knows or does that others are unable to do. And others who see these assets that the other person has as valuable. Respect is a feeling that one has to earn rather than one demands. So in our particular society, we're not talking about ISKCON in general, but society in general. Our fear is built into our cultural structures, and this impedes empathy and impedes communication. Fear is built into guru-disciple relationships, parent-child relationships, and boss and subordinate relationships. We see this. I mean, sometimes people are very fearful of their guru. I mean, obviously there has to be respect based upon the guru's position, the guru's knowledge, the guru's realization, the guru's renunciation, the guru's dedication to his guru. I mean, that's part of Krishna consciousness. But we have this fear-based relationship. Now, my disciple is not fearful. He'll tell me that. He's the opposite. So, definitely I practice what I preach. So, fear is built into our relationships. And with parent-child, oftentimes, I mean, I've been speaking to some children grown up and asking them about the relationship they had with the parents, and they said that even now when they see their parents, see their father, they feel fearful after so many years because the parents discipline them with corporal punishment or with threats. And so this is sort of built into our society, and our current culture supports this sort of relationship based upon punishments and rewards. And this disconnects us from empathy and close relationships with others. When you're doing something, let's say you're a disciple or you're a child, and you're doing something because of a fear of punishments or an expectation of some extrinsic reward. Let me explain what an extrinsic reward is. Extrinsic means it's separate from the activity itself, has no connection. I'll give you an example of my own childhood. When I was young, my mother would reward me for getting good marks in school. She'd give me money. You know, there was like, in those days, money was worth a lot more than it is today. She would give me $5 for an A,
$1 for a B, nothing for a C, and if I got a D, I got a minus. So I learned accounting in that way. You know, I became a good accountant. So what that did, it did not make me like to learn. It made me fearful of getting a low grade. Actually, if I got a really low grade, which I never did, thank God. Well, actually, one time I think I got a C minus, I have to admit. My mother said, "This is not the grade of my report card of my son." So hearing that made me think, wow, the love of my mother is somewhat dependent upon getting good grades. So when you have relationships based on things like that, it doesn't connect you with the other person, doesn't make you like to study. It makes you like money and become fearful of getting punished. One of the two. It didn't help me want to study. So in fact, one time, I have to admit this, one time I took my report card when I was in 5th grade, and I changed the grade on it with invisible ink. You know what invisible ink is? That means you write something and show it to your mother and then it disappears. I changed a B to an A or something like that. Something innocent. So it didn't connect me with studying. It connected me with the punishments and the rewards. And it didn't connect me with my relationship with my mother. So anyway, using punishments or rewards to get people to do things does not increase the trust. It may get them to obey, but you have a loss of trust in that relationship. So this is the present nature of our relationships in society. So in order to overcome that, we need to develop empathy. We need to develop close relationships with each other. And we need to respect the freedom of each living entity. Let me read a purport by Srila Prabhupada that deals with this specifically. Every living being is anxious for full freedom because that is his transcendental nature. And this freedom is obtained only through the transcendental service of the Lord. Illusioned by the external energy, everyone thinks that he is free, but actually he is bound up by the laws of nature. A conditioned soul cannot freely move from one place to another, even on this earth. What to speak of one planet to another? But a full-fledged free soul like Narada, always engaged in chanting the Lord's glories, is free to move not only on earth, but also in any part of the universe, as well as any part of the spiritual sky. We can just imagine the extent and unlimitedness of his freedom, which is as good as the Supreme Lord. There is no reason or obligation for his traveling, and no one can stop him from his free movement. Similarly, the transcendental system of devotional service is also free. It may or may not develop in a particular person after he undergoes all the detailed formulas. Let me explain that before I read further. So, in Bhakti Yoga, we have all these detailed formulas. Chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regulative principles, rise early if you can, offer your food to Krishna. So these detailed formulas, they're not necessarily going to give you Krishna consciousness. They are, to use logical terms, they are necessary, but they're not sufficient. In other words, that's not really what gives you Krishna consciousness. They're necessary to follow to avoid, let's say, being affected by the modes of nature, to at least perform Bhakti Yoga. But what will give you Krishna consciousness is the internal connection with Krishna. Because if you simply do all those things and you don't internally connect, That's called Niyam Agraha. According to Srila Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Instruction, Atyahara Prayasas Cha Pajalpa Niyamangraha Jana Sangas Jaloyam Cha Sabir Bhakti Vinashati. 6 things destroy your bhakti. And one of them is Niyamangraha. That is, doing the rules and regulations, but not internally connecting while you're doing the rules and regulations. Of course, the other word is Niyam Agraha, which means not doing the rules and regulations, also can destroy your bhakti. But right now we're talking about doing the rules and regulations and just doing them externally. Putting yourself on automatic pilot. There's no connection. It's the same thing as not being empathic. Being empathic means to connect emotionally. Devotional service is meant to be performed with the subtle body, with the heart. You do it externally. Yes, that's necessary. But it's meant to be performed with the heart. So if you're doing things on automatic pilot, and I'm going to give you an example of that in a second, then that's Niyamagraha. You're not going to make spiritual advancements actually cause a deviation from spiritual life. A practical example in the material world, not the spiritual world, is once upon a time, there was a pilot, 2 pilots, who were flying a commercial plane. And this was in America. And they put the plane on automatic pilot, which is not a bad idea if you're still paying attention. It's like putting a Tesla, Tesla cars, on automatic pilot, but not paying attention. Many examples of that on modern day. So anyway, these 2 pilots were flying the plane. They put the plane on automatic pilot. And what happened is they started talking about some sports games. I don't know what sports games they talked about. Maybe cricket. No, it wasn't cricket because it was United States. Anyway. What?
Football, probably.
Yeah, football. American football. So anyway, they were talking about sports. And they overshot the airport that they were supposed to land at by 200 miles. So what happened is the Air Force called out some planes, so they thought they'd been hijacked, they were going to shoot them down. So these 2 pilots were going on merrily on their way, and they looked out and they saw these fighter jets on the side. And they said, where are we? And they ignored the radio. The radio was calling American Airlines, whatever airlines. Where are you? Where are you? And they said, oh, I guess we overshot the airport by 200 miles. So anyway, eventually they landed the plane. Everybody was safe. Of course, they lost their jobs. So we do the same thing in spiritual life. We chant our rounds inattentively. As Prabhupada said jokingly one time, we related this morning, Prabhupada jokingly was using his bead bag, chanting his rounds, moved all the counter beads down, and finally when he moved the last one down, he said, 16 rounds, I'm finished, now I can do any damn thing. So we chant our rounds to get them done, right? And we follow rules and regulations because that's what we're supposed to do. And we chant our different mantras not even knowing what we're chanting when we're chanting. I mean, how many of us have chanted different prayers? I mean, for example, we have the obeisances to Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Buddhale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nibraseshas Nibadi Paschata Dejatani. How many times do we chant that and not think of what it means while we're doing it? I mean, for example, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. Offer my obeisances to the lotus feet of the divine grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, so dear to Krishna, I can take in shelter of Lord's lotus feet. But do we think about that when we're doing it? Or do we just do it as a ritual? That's part of empathy, which means being connected. Or Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nibrasesha Sunyabadi Paschat Deshatari. I offer my obeisances unto the lotus feet of the servitor of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is so kindly preaching Krishna consciousness in the Western world. There's that West again. Western world, which is filled with impersonalism and voidism. So when you do that, when you connect like that, then devotional service becomes much more pleasant, and you're actually performing devotional service. It's interesting. And we just do things ritualistically, you're not connected. I mean, it's better than nothing, but you're not connected. We're talking about empathy, being connected to others, being connected to Krishna, being connected to the spiritual master, being connected to the spiritual energy. So, or we chant some prayers that are more complicated than that, like the Guru Vashtaka prayers. Some of you may know the Guru Vashtaka prayers, like we chant in the temples in the morning. Samsara Dhavanandi Loka. Which means what? The spiritual master, the material world is on blazing fire, first of all. And the spiritual master rains the fire of the rain of mercy on this material world to extinguish the blazing fire of material existence. I mean, then you're really connected. That's Krishna consciousness. Then you feel happiness. So connection to Krishna, connection to other devotees, connection to people, empathy, this is what gives someone happiness. Because we all want to be happy. Disconnection just simply makes us miserable. Giving labels, I'm just summing up now. Giving labels to people, not connecting, not being, just thinking of yourself, being sympathetic rather than empathic with people makes you miserable. So really, if we want to be happy, then cooperation, empathy, connection is really what we want, or what we need, simply what we need. And that is Krishna consciousness. Then you'll always be happy. And Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And when you're chanting your rounds, think about what you're doing. Not only what you're doing, but why you're doing it. Why am I chanting? Because I have to? That's horrible. I have to chant? Krishna doesn't appreciate that. Just like, here's my reporter here. Say, he drove me up here. And if I ask him, why did you drive me up here? And he says,
because you made me.
You made me. I'll drive myself. Or let's say your wife gives you food, she cooks dinner for you, and she just does it ritualistically. So why are you cooking for me? This is my duty. I have to do it. That's horrible. I mean, better than nothing. At least you won't starve to death. But, wives must do what their husbands say. That's their dharma. You can imagine that? Do it because that's your dharma. That's your duty. Tell that to your children someday. It's your duty. I mean, I deal with a lot of people who grew up in ISKCON and were told they had to do things. And now they can't do them anymore because they were forced to do them when they were young. I had one disciple who's not here right now, but he's in Serbia. He was forced to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning by his mother every day and take care of the deities. Now he can't get up before 8 o'clock in the morning. If I asked him to get up before 8 o'clock in the morning, he starts shaking because he was traumatized. So with all this have to... Anyway, so people should do things from their heart. And when someone is doing something for you because they have to, it's pretty miserable. Someone's cooking for you, driving for you because they have to, it's their duty. I mean, it may be all right in the workplace where you're paying someone a salary. But even that's miserable. I mean, I was reading one business book many, many years ago. It was called From Good to Great. I don't know when anyone's read that book. Read the book? So I read a lot. Not only Krishna consciousness, also Anandaya too. So, and it talks about if you really want to be good in business, have a good business. It was written by Welsh. General Electric? Everyone's heard of him before? Anyway. He was able to bring his business up to the highest level. You have to do something you really feel good, you like to do. He said, something you feel passionate about, something you like to do. And that's connection, that's empathy. And that's the way we should be in Krishna consciousness. We don't have to be like that, but that will give us happiness in Krishna consciousness. Connect like that. Of course, we all like to connect to prasadam, so it's getting a little late. You have a need for eating, which is a natural need. There's nothing wrong with it. Anyway, so that's a brief introduction of my empathy, sympathy, compassion talk. So any questions? Anyone have any questions or comments? Yes?
Okay, well, you said that we have to get connected internally.
We should. I mean, it's a good idea. We don't have to. You know, we can disconnect with all we want. You know. We can choose, you know.
If we keep on trying and it doesn't happen, so what should we do?
Keep on trying. You need to, you don't need anyway, but one strategy is, if we're feeling difficulty keeping connected, as we're doing our spiritual activities, that's what I think you're referring to, is try, as you're doing the spiritual activities, to think of, before you do the spiritual activity, do a sankalpa. Think of why you're doing that particular spiritual activity. You know, why am I doing it? If I'm doing it because, if my why is because I have to, that's not a very good why. The why should be something connected with your needs. Like why, I mean, I'll give you an example of my own life. Okay. My own life is I'm doing GBC service. That means I go around, sometimes I have to supervise different temples and yatras, and that's why I'm here. In addition to presenting Krishna consciousness. So why am I doing it? You know, why did I get in the car today and drive from my comfortable house in Hillsborough, North Carolina, surrounded by people fanning me and whatever, submissive disciples. That's an oxymoron. So why did I do that? Do I like to manage? Nah, not really. If what I would like to do, you know, you'd ask me what I'd like to do. I'd like to go right back to Govardhan Hill, and sit there and chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Goodbye, cruel world. You know, whatever. But I like a lot of other things. But that would be the thing I'd like very much most to do. So why am I here? I mean, I asked myself that question before I came up here. And the reason is because I want to please Prabhupada. I mean, that's my reason. So if I think about that, it's a very personal thing. I came here today because I want to please Prabhupada. And of course, I like all of you too. I mean, it's not that I have any problem with anybody. So, because I want to, that's my primary motivation. I love Prabhupada. I mean, I have to be honest about it. And my loyalty to Prabhupada is like 100%. I would die for Prabhupada. Prabhupada actually said that. One time Prabhupada was in India. People were criticizing his disciples. They don't know any Sanskrit. They don't know so many verses. And Prabhupada said, that may be. But their one quality is, they would die for me. That's amazing, isn't it? And that's really an amazing quality. And so I came up here, not because I'm willing to die. Not today. I came here because I just want to serve Prabhupada. You know, that's my motivation. So I do that sankalpa before I do something. You know, like we do a fire sacrifice. You always have or a marriage, you always have a sankalpa. We're here on this day in the moon day, the sun day, these planets of like this. I've done so many marriages. I did his marriage. Turned out to be a success. So, so we have this whole sankalpa we did before his marriage. His wife actually taught me how to do the sankalpa before she got married to him. So she gave me a whole script for his marriage. Now you say this, Guru Dave. Now you say that. Okay, I will. So anyway, the sankalpa is why you're doing, where you are, what you're doing, the reason for you doing it. So Try that before you do anything. And I think that may help. I'm doing this, whatever, this bhakti, because I want to please my spiritual master. I'm not telling you what your reason is. That has to come from your heart. And maybe because I want to get the hell out of this material world. That may be your sankalpa. That's not the highest, but one has to be honest. Like Dhruva Maharaj, he was honest. What did he want? He wanted to have a kingdom greater than that of Lord Brahma. Pretty good desire. Just like I may pray, I want to have a car better than my car. I'd rather have a Tesla rather than a Prius. And so, no, I don't have that. Maybe I do. Anyway, so, but anyway, so you figure out what's dear to your heart. Go to your heart. Devotional service is executed with the heart, the subtle body. Not with the brain, not with the body, although that's also done, but the real essence is the heart. What's there in your heart? I mean, sometimes I ask the devotee, I tell the devotees, if you're not really at your heart, here's a picture of you. I make a picture. If I had a flip chart, I could make a picture. Here's a picture of you. A big head, because you're very philosophical. And the head is also the stomach, and there's just a mouth in it. And there's no heart in between. Just like our friend Kabanda. Anyone's really Ramayan here? No? No Rambhaktas? So the Ramayan, you have this person. He wasn't a demon, he was a Gandharva who was cursed. His name was Kabanda. Everybody know? He had long arms, 8-mile long arms. He reached out, one arm, one hand grabbed Ram, the other hand he grabbed Lakshman. And he's getting ready to take his prasadam. Right? And so, what was he? He was a big head with a mouth. And stomach. His head was also his stomach. So if we are here, this is a problem sometimes I run into with many people in spiritual life, especially in Christian consciousness, very philosophical. So if we're here, and we're also here because we love to eat. Like Prabhupada said, it's kitchen religion, it's bona fide. One time the devotees were trying to give Prabhupada very simple food like I ate. And Prabhupada said, let the starvation committee go to hell. Because they thought, Prabhupada, we want to give you healthy food. Healthy food is a euphemism for something that doesn't taste good. So Prabhupada said, let the starvation. So we have these two parts of Krishna consciousness, the head and the stomach. But I think there's something in between, which is the heart. And that's connection, that's empathy. And connection with Krishna. So, go to your heart and ask your heart, why are you doing this? And not because I have to, that's the head stuff. Head stuff means I have to do it. Heart stuff means I choose to do it because blank, 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 blank. That's you. That's up to you. And then what you're doing becomes really pleasurable if you really want to do it. Let's say you're homeschooling the children. So why am I doing it? I gotta. No. I'm doing it because I want them to be Krishna conscious. I love them. I mean, that's an important need for a mother, a love of the children, or the welfare of the children, let's say. So you connect it. And the more you may even have to write that down, that's sankalpa down. The more you do that, the more you feel connected with the activity. So we're not just empathic with others, we're empathic with ourselves. We're empathic with the activities we do. And that's connection. And that's why I call what I'm teaching empathic communication, and that's what the book's about. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
So Maharaj, as you mentioned that, when we do something and if we have passion for that thing, then it's easy to connect with it.
Yes.
And also it's true with people. So how to do this in the opposite case, like when it's easy to be to have empathy when you like someone, but how to do it when you don't like someone but still.
Why don't you like someone? Because you put a label on them. Getting back to that same point. The only reason you don't like someone is because, I mean, you could say, I don't like what they do. That's a different thing. When that guy was tailgating me, I didn't like it. I was pretty upset. That's all right. Nothing wrong with that. But I didn't hate him. So you're putting a static label on someone. When you don't like someone, you're putting a label on them. That's the only reason you don't like someone. And let's take Ravana, for example. Poor guy. Poor guy. I don't hate Ravana. Lord Ram didn't hate Ravana. He just didn't like what he did. He stole his wife. That's not a good idea. So
hate the sin, not the sinner.
Yeah, hate the sin, not the sinner. The activity, yeah. We don't like that activity. And then, just like when Indrajit was killed, all the monkeys wanted to just tear him apart. And Ram said, no, there's no enmity. He sent him back with honor. And of course, there's that verse in the Upanishad, Yastu Sarvani Bhutani Atmana Ivana Pashti Sarva Bhuteshu Chatmanam Tadon Nirvika Gupshate, which means one should see everyone as part and parcel of Krishna. You're all brothers and sisters. I mean, that's our philosophy. That everyone, all living entities, are our brothers and sisters. So if we're hating someone, that's our problem. We have to understand that we're putting a label on that person. He's envious. He's a demon. We don't see people as demons. I mean, that's not our Krishna consciousness. We see people as acting demoniacally right now. But in essence, they are devotees. One of the qualities of a devotee is what? Ajata Shatrava. The Lord Kapila talks about the qualities of devotees. He says, Tatikshava Kurun, famous verse, Tatikshava Kurunika Surada Sarvadehinam Ajata Shatrava Shanta Shatavat Sadabhushana. A devotee is tolerant, a devotee is peaceful, and then he says a devotee does not have any enemies. Or literally it is, his enemy is never born. And Yudhisthira Maharaj is also known as Ajata Shatru, means he who has no enemy, or he whose enemy has not been born, to be specific about the Sanskrit. So, if we don't like someone, then we should think in our hearts, why is it? Why is that? That's not coming from our heart, that's coming from our mind anyway. Our brain, mind, whatever. That, what is this? We should try to understand the person empathically. This person is acting, it gets a little technical, but this person is acting for the same reasons, same needs. This person has the same needs I have, and he may be employing an improper strategy, but he's trying to fulfill his needs. We can get into analyzing Ravana that way, if you want. What need was Ravana trying to fulfill? Love. The strategy stunk. But, he was trying to fulfill the need of love. And, obviously we would punish Ravana. I would side with Lord Ram. I'm not finding fault with Lord Ram. Because it was necessary. It's necessary to have the punishment or the rectification. But Ram never punished Ravan with the need for retribution. There's a difference. This involves, I don't want to, I go really far on this one, but there's two philosophies of justice. One is restorative justice, the other one is retributive justice. Anyone who's studied about this in the university. One is that, someone's done something wrong, you just want to see them suffer. Retribution. Another one is you want to restore them to the right frame of consciousness. So Ram had restorative justice in mind for Ravan. Anyway, when he killed Ravan, Ravan got liberated, so it's pretty good to get killed by Ram. Even Marich, he decided to be killed by Ram rather than by Ravan. Ravan told him, you better do what I say, Marich, and make yourself as a golden deer. And Marich was thinking, I don't want to do that, I'm going to get killed. And Ravan said, if you don't do it, I'll kill you. And Marich said, or thought, it's better I'm killed by Ram than Ravan. Because being killed by Ram, you get liberated. Pretty nice. Okay. Wow, we went on too long. It's 2 o'clock already. Unless someone else has a question or a comment. Oh, yeah, more, yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. It was very nice.
Thank you.
I have a question about the empathy. How important is empathy in the outside world, like in the workplace or wherever we go outside?
I think it's very important as far as having good relationships in the workplace. and ultimately getting, let's say if you're the boss or happen to be in charge of your team, which is mostly the case, getting people to serve enthusiastically, and they'll actually do much more, and they'll go above and beyond, what they're required to do. And then you'll have good relationships. I mean, if you're miserable in the workplace, let's say even if people do perform and they do pretty well, but everybody's miserable, what's the use of such a life like that? If you go into the workplace and everyone hates each other, even if you're doing what you're supposed to do, wow. What a nasty situation to be in. I don't want to live like that. I want to live where I have loving relationships. People, they love each other, they cooperate. They may not be the best friends all the time, but at least they're understanding each other. I want to live in a situation like that and a society like that. So I think in the workplace, it's not a strategy for management. It's not a strategy to get, if you think of it like that, it doesn't work. It has a strategy of being concerned for your employees or being concerned for your coworkers, and you'll find ultimately, in most cases, they'll perform much more. And as far as bringing people to Krishna consciousness, keeping people in the Krishna consciousness, if we empathize the personal relationships and the connection, more people will stay. I've heard the comments sometimes from people outside of Krishna consciousness, you have the best philosophy in the world, but in many cases you act impersonally with each other. Some impersonalists have actually said that to me. So we have to develop more of a care for each other and care for Krishna. Connect with Krishna, connect with devotees. Krishna says, the person who says that I am, if someone says I am Krishna's devotee, this is from the Adi Purana, Krishna says that is not my devotee, but someone who is a devotee of my devotee is my devotee. That's a typical quote we always give. And if you really want people to be Krishna conscious, then care for people, care for the devotees. I'll give you a practical example. Recently I was in the hospital with this operation, hernia operation. So one person from our congregation came out to be with me the whole time. He was with me too, but that's his duty. He has to. I'm joking right now. He has to. He likes to be there because when I was given the operation, they put truth serum in me. Sodium pentothal is part of the operation thing. So I tell the truth at that particular point. Anyways, so he came and he was with me the whole time, and I felt so connected and so happy. That he's my eternal friend, basically, for staying with me for a few hours in the recovery room and also the pre-op room. And so when we reach out to people like that, they'll feel connected. Especially, this is also Vaishnava care, which is another important area. Especially when Vaishnavas, devotees, or anyone needs help, when we reach out and help them from our hearts, then they'll feel connected, and they'll feel connected to Krishna too. So it's also an effective strategy to keeping people in Krishna consciousness and bringing people to Krishna consciousness. So connection. From the heart. Everything should be done from the heart. If we do things ritualistically, if we do things because we have to, there's not so much connection at that point. Okay, we have another question? Yes, one other question.
Yes. I was wondering, you talked about how to use empathy to understand other people's needs and
Yeah.
connect with them. What are some ways in which we can use empathy to actually uplift others? Can we take it a step further?
Yeah, we can. But before other people can be uplifted, they have to fulfill their basic needs. And that's an important thing. Brought up by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Chaitanya Shikshamrita, and also Prabhupada said, if someone's hungry, they're not going to be interested in spiritual life. It's a fact. If you can't breathe, or if you can't eat, or whatever, or you're thirsty, those needs have to be fulfilled. So if we're empathic with people with those needs, and then we can resonate with them in terms of their spiritual need. Because everyone has that need for the psychologist Maslow called self-actualization, which we call Krishna consciousness. Everyone has that need to connect to Krishna. Prabhupada said this in the Krishna book. He says everybody has this loving propensity. And we want to express this loving propensity unlimitedly. But when we invest it in other objects in this world, it gets frustrated. But we can invest it in Krishna, it gets expanded, or it goes to infinity. So that's a need. And we explain that to people. That we have a need for love. For loving relationships, unlimited loving relationships. And we give that to Krishna, invest that need, or focus that need on Krishna. Then we can be really happy. So yeah, we use this whole need psychology or analysis in terms of Krishna consciousness too. Okay? All right, and all you have a need to eat for food. It's not a need to eat. Eating is a strategy. But you have a need for nutrition for food. Right?
That was the last one.
Yeah, the last question.
So Mark, sometimes we get into the situations where we are really doing something because we have to. And
No, you don't have to do anything. You always have a choice. Tell me about one situation where you have to do something. I mean, at work, let's say at work, the boss says,
yes,
you got to do this.
Some assignment.
But you have to, you can choose. You can say no. I'm not saying no, but you rephrase it in your mind.
Okay.
I'm choosing to do this because I want to take care of my family.
Oh, I see.
Then it becomes pleasant. If you have this, even though the boss is approaching you with a have to, if you rephrase it in your mind, it's no longer a have to. Because you don't have to. If someone puts a gun to your head and says, give me your money, do you have to give them the money?
Yes.
No.
No, you don't.
You can say no. Boom. You can choose to get shot. You don't have to. It's not an absolute. You don't have to give him your money. So rephrase it. I'm going to give this guy my money because I value life. I want to live. Then I'm not saying you become ecstatic giving the guy your money. Oh, here, please take my money. But it's a different frame of consciousness.
So that's the art.
That's the art. Because if you're doing things, if you're always framing your consciousness, I have to do this, I have to do that, you are going to be miserable. You're going to be miserable. I'm choosing. I am choosing to do what my boss is saying because I really want to take care of my family. I mean, why are you working? Why do you go to work every day? You do that sankalpa before you go to work. Why am I going to work? Because I love my family. I want my children to be Krishna conscious. take care of my family, be comfortable. Then it's even pleasant being at work. Otherwise, work is just, I gotta go to work today. Let's see that same boss. Oh. Then it's miserable. Your life is miserable. Oh, I gotta wake up, just talking about bhakti. I gotta wake up and go to Mangal Arati this morning, that same Krishna. Why don't we get another? There's 33 million demigods. Why don't I get some choice today? Anyway. So when you're waking up, I do this when I'm waking up in the morning. It's not that I gotta get up. Every alarm clock has they used to have the snooze thing, You hit it 10 minutes, hit it again, another 10 minutes. By the time it's 10 o'clock in the morning. So instead, I'm choosing to get up because I want to connect with Krishna. I know it'll please my spiritual master. Or I want to just get liberated, whatever. You just change it in your mind. I'm choosing to do it. It's just an adjustment. And then you do it from the heart. And then the boss will say, why are you so happy when I'm yelling at you? And you'll say, because I love my wife. And the boss will say, what does loving your wife have to do? And he won't understand. But you will understand. In this way, the whole life can be like a pleasant experience. So this is connection, this is empathy. Because empathy starts with self-empathy. Not just empathy for others, but self-empathy. Even empathy for Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is an anxiety because of all this suffering souls. Krishna is an anxiety. Prabhupada's an anxiety. Anyway, this is having enough for today. Everybody, a full dose. All right. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.